Hello and welcome to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast, episode 61. As always, at the start of the podcast, I ask you if you could leave a review for us on iTunes, YouTube, or whatever, particularly on iTunes. That does a lot for us, pushing up there how they market things. I don't understand this wonderful world of internet too well. I'm Steve Lillis. With me, my co-host, John Evans. You okay, John?
Yeah, I am, Steve. I am. Yeah, you got it nearly right, Steve. You know, these ratings do help us. I think we've got every single person who's ever reviewed us has given us 5 stars out of 5. So if you keep it up, we'll get up them charts.
Yeah, brilliant. I know, was it 35 before Christmas or something on iTunes, which is, I don't know, considering we're unknowns, it's pretty good. Anyway, with us this week, he's come off the subs bench as always. We always seem to get him on the subs bench apart from New Year. Jamie Moore couldn't make it. He's seeing a specialist today. He'll be back next week. With us is the head of VIP, Steve Wood. Thanks, Steve, for coming, super sub, for coming off the bench.
Yeah, listen, don't expect a great performance tonight because I've not had a chance to study our topics, and I made 2 quick ones up myself, which I've not even studied. So, yeah, let's have some fun tonight, boys, and I'm sure we can wing it too.
All right, well, we'll crack on. So I know you're getting dragged off somewhere in a bit, Woodster. So we'll fly on and get on with this for this week. Make it quicker than ever. John, you got your bell, got your clocks, got everything ready?
Ready to go.
Will you start about the new beginning for round 1?
Yeah, Williams against Eubank this weekend. I know we're going to talk about it in a topic in a little while, but I think this is the real first show for Sky. You know, they had a couple of stabs at it late last year, didn't they? Bit low profile, and I went to one of the shows down in London, and it was a bit hit and miss. You could see they were trying different things, but they've got some real good top of the bills coming up now. I think they've knocked it out the park so far. I just hope we hit the ground running. Let's not have propaganda and stuff shoved down our throats telling us all these kids are the next world champion and being avoided by everyone. Let's have some honesty on the commentary. Get rid of the gimmicks like the heat map. Get some good fights on. Promote the young fighters. Put them in good matches. Good tops of the bill. And I think Sky, the way all the cards are falling at the moment, have got a real chance to make a really big impact and still maintain that position as the top people.
Yeah, if their February program's anything to go by, John and Steve, that, you know, it's a brilliant start. Eubank Williams, Calm Brook, which is box office, and Taylor Cattrall. You couldn't ask for a better start to February. And as you say, it's a new beginning for them. Look, the undercards aren't the best, but what we purists have to understand, Sky's a sports channel, not Box Nation. Where, you know, you want to give, it's about that, you know, you've got to have a good 8-rounder, a good 6-rounders on it. You know, and I think the one thing I don't think we will get away with, John, is from this overselling fight. Like, you know, I remember last year, was it the Azim brothers, and that was on, you know, their professional debuts. They're talking of world champions. You know, the kids don't need that pressure. That's the sort of thing we're not going to get away, John, because they are a sports channel trying to sell to the general sports fan, in my opinion. Steve.
Yeah, I think go along with what John was saying is that last year was a bit too early to say for them, and they're not just like a new promoter. They're brand new, aren't they? And it'd be hard to judge them on that. And let's be honest, the start wasn't very good, as in the fights and the production and the format they was using. But if you look now at the shows, obviously, if you get the Calm one, which is a pay-per-view, that's a different one. But these 2 shows that they got, which aren't pay-per-view, it wouldn't have happened with Eddie Hearn, because I don't think they'd have given him the money to do a Eubank and Williams on a standard show. Certainly not to do a Josh Taylor and Cattrall Unified World Championship on standard shows. So Sky are obviously upping the monies that they're giving to the promoters, which is great, and they're absolutely fantastic fights. I just hope that because they're giving the money for the top of the bills, that there's nothing left to do the undercards, because if you look at the undercards, they're not great. Obviously, it's difficult when you've got such a good top of the bill, but let's start getting a balance if we can, where the shows themselves are a little bit better on a full stretch and not just on the top of the bill, because they must have chucked a load of money in for them.
Well said, Steve. Some great points there. Round 2, women's waiting game, and This isn't a dig in any stretch at Natasha Jonas. I think she's been great for women's boxing going all the way back to 2012 at the Olympics. And before that, she was really the face of the, British to female team events before that. But I just don't like this. I don't think it does women's boxing any good where she's jumping 3 or 4 weights for a world title fight against Eva Plakowska, I think the Polish girl's name is, on the Manchester bill in a couple of weeks. I think that's on the pay-per-view bill. You imagine Ryan Garcia jumping from 135 to 154 just because all the belts are held by Kambosos and there's no quick opportunities for him. It is unfortunate for Natasha that Katie Taylor has all the lightweight belts. Michaela has a couple of the Michaela May. I think she's got a couple of the super featherweight belts. And as I say, this isn't a dig at her at all, but I just don't think it does the women's boxing any good that they're jumping 3-4 weights. I mean, she's still got to find quite a bit of weight for her. I mean, Plakowska's only a light welterweight, come welterweight. I just don't think it does anything for the women's game. I know you follow the women's game a lot more avidly than myself and Steve, John. I just wonder what you thought more than anything on this.
Yeah. Do we know if there's been a catch weight put? Because I know the other girl's quite small. If they've not put a catch weight in, have they ever both been away?
It's a world title.
148 or something like that.
It's a world title, isn't it? You can...
Yeah, but that does nothing for the sport, does it?
No.
Jonas. I used to do a diary with Jonas every month in the build-up to the Olympics. So I've known Natasha a long time. But I don't think it's good for the sport. She fought really well in a couple of world title attempts.
Yeah, brilliantly.
For the women's sport to grow and get a bit of not recognition, that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. She should re-establish herself at number one and get another chance. And I think that'd benefit the women's game in the long run. But
agree.
Title fights are so easy to come by now, aren't they?
John, was that for people to take it serious, they've got to be serious. And I think it's another black eye for women's boxing. And, I'm not the greatest lover of women's boxing, as you see, but I mean, Tasha's fantastic, isn't she? She's equivalent to Anthony Crawler. She's just lovely, and you can't not like her. And really and truthfully, she's always wanted a world title. I think that's why she went to Sky, because they'd get a world title. They couldn't deliver her at the weight she wanted, so they delivered this one for her. So, you can't knock her, but
no, it's not
the sport of women's boxing, as should we say, took another black eye with it, because you shouldn't be doing it.
Over to you, Steve, for round 3, and Eubank versus Williams, I think, is your first topic.
Yeah, well, as we said before, it's a great start for Sky 2022 with a Eubank v Williams fight. I've been looking at it. I like Williams. I like Eubank. I've seen faults in them both, and to be honest, Williams was exposed when he fought Andre. Now, I'm not saying Eubank's at the level of Andrade, but he has got those tricky moves, and I'm just worried if it could be another one-sided beating for Williams, or is he going to get on top of Eubanks and Eubanks foul? I mean, I probably think the first, unfortunately, but I just wonder what you guys thought to it.
Oh, do you know what? I think it's going to be a belter. Even if it does turn out to be one-sided, I think it'll be one of those exciting one-sided fights, where Williams isn't going to give him for a split second, is he? He's got that home crowd behind him. He's an aggressive fighter anyway. His style's made for it. So even if it does end up becoming one-sided down the stretch, I still think it'll be exciting. Eubank's probably just a step down from Andrade in the footwork department, but he's got those fast hands and tricky moves.
Good hands.
But he's got a rock solid chin, hasn't he? And he's going to be there. He's going to be there for the duration. I can see it being a pretty painful night for them both, but I just see Eubank coming out and outlasting him and landing plenty of shots as the fight goes on.
I can't wait for the fight like you two. It's absolutely, as we said earlier, a brilliant start to the year for Sky. I mean, unfortunately, it's been delayed. This is the third date for it because of COVID and whatever. I think it's the third date, is it, for it? But look, I can't wait for it. By the time this podcast is out in Cyberland, by the middle of the week, we most probably had the press conference, and it's going to be Needle. It's going to be great. The build-up's been nasty already. They're both fellas. I mean, Barry Jones was calling it well about this, but they're both got that real nasty edge to them. But I mean, you know what? When you gave me this subject today, Steve, I started thinking about it more, and I think Eubank wins, but I think it's a lot closer than what people think. I think he wins comfortably in the end, but as John says, in a really hard fight. But I don't see a shutout. I just think he's got that tiny bit more in most departments that gives him the edge in this fight. And obviously, Liam's only been with Adam Booth for a few weeks. Is that enough time to get him as Adam would like? I'm sure Adam would have liked to have had a couple of fights him going 10 rounds to get him to his way of thinking. It was strange him, leaving Dom Ingles to, just late last year after he'd gone back there for training after Andrade. But I'm like you. I'm going Eubank. Over to you, John, about announcements.
Oh, yeah. A bit of a whinge here. I'm sick of these announcements. And we're at the stage now where people are making announcements that there's going to be an announcement. Tune in at 6 o'clock when we'll be announcing something. You see young fighters who have got a 4-rounder and they go on my Facebook and my Twitter and my Instagram and say, I'm pleased to announce I'm fighting in Wigan in a 4-rounder in 3 months down the line. Stop it. Get on with your career. When you've got a big title fight to announce, great. Make an announcement, make a song and dance about it. But everything seems to be an announcement these days. Not everything's worthy of an announcement. If you're boxing a 6-rounder overweight on a Saturday night down the card on a Gary Booth show, it's not worthy of an announcement. I think we've just got to get away from that. When people say there's an announcement coming, they straight away build it up, don't they? We're going to get some great news. We're going to get some groundbreaking stuff. And it's always a letdown. It always falls flat. So these promoters, managers, fighters, TV channels, pick what you're announcing and don't build people up.
There was one. There's no real reply to that. I'm coming at you pretty quick here, Woody. But there was one the other week when you said this, John. I thought of it, and it was a guy having a 6-rounder, and I can't think who it was. I think it might have been an Irish boxer. Can't think. And it was a big announcement coming, tonight. And I thought, he's going up to 10 rounds in a fight. Then there was a message. Hasn't quite got over the line, this one. Announcement tomorrow. And when it came, it was a 6-rounder again up on a date he's fighting. Steve, you got all these fighters. You got a few, must do this.
Listen, I'm not arguing. If it helps them sell tickets, let them get on with it, because that's where they've got to get to. But, I understand what John's saying, but he's getting a bit cynical and old at the moment. And just chill out, John Evans. There's no big deal with that.
Hey, I'm with John on this, but what I will say, I will get why some of these lads say it, because to them 50 or 60 tickets they sell, it's a big night out. But I've got to take on board what John says. But as I says, I'm an old fogey now, and John's becoming an old fogey by spending time on this podcast with me and talking to you a few times a week, Steve.
But it's even it is even stuff like don't forget announcement coming at 6 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, the announcement is in 3 months' time, we'll be doing this. And just wait. I know the internet means everyone's desperate for content all the time and desperate to keep things churning and keep people clicking on the profiles. But come on, let's save these big announcements for something that's actually worth talking about.
Woody's not having us at all on this, mate, I'll tell you. Woody likes it when his fighters are doing all this. That's what he wants them to do. Round 5, Steve, this is a round where I'm going to ask you a question. When you was on over the New Year, that New Year's special that went down, and last year, each time you bemoaned how hard it was through the COVID with small halls and all the issues with matching and getting fighters in. How are things looking going ahead when you've got so many shows coming up yourself from the end of February, where you're running virtually every week, I think, till Easter almost?
Yeah, do you know what? I was talking with James Russell today on this, and we was talking about the stress we got with the last time, because we was coming to a show with a week to go, and out of 7 or 8 fights, we only had 1 or 2 matches, and it was that hard. And it was like, you always leave it a week before you start looking at foreigners. And then we said, well, now we'll have to start getting foreigners 2 or 3 weeks before, because you just can't get them. But we was going through our cards now, and the matchmakers, Tom and John, seem to have pulled it all off. So at the moment, we've probably got 90% of a match. So it's obviously a lot easier. The problem's going to be once this boxing starts and people start getting stopped, or the TV promoters come and try and nick them with a bit more money, we'll collapse. But where we are now is that we're nearly there. And so we're talking about back to the old days where we might be scratching for one or two when the pullouts happen near the time. So, no, I'm quite pleased. And I'm not saying we've got over it yet because it's got to start. But where we are now, it's looking a lot more healthier.
Steve, is that because a lot of the lads who hadn't been boxing during the pandemic have suddenly renewed their license over November and December, or are the board making it easier for you?
Well, I just think at the moment where we are is that because there was a period we no shows and there wasn't people ringing around and doing it, where we've had a good start. I don't know what it is like with everyone else, but we're okay. I've not seen any names on there that were the usual suspects before Christmas. So, no, I think it's just because there's not been much boxing and we're on a good run.
I've seen a good couple of top of a bill fights announced as well off VIP, Steve. Are you finding, I know I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, but things change quick in boxing. Are lads still keen on being matched against each other, like the Joe Kavanagh fight and things? Are you still finding a lot of them are saying yes?
Yeah, we're getting very little resistance. I think they're all happy to be fighting because, the last 6 months when they were boxing, it was so difficult, and like they knew they weren't boxing before that because they wasn't allowed to. But once they start going into a fight and then they realise we can't get opponents for them, I think it's helped switch the mentalities of them and everything like that. And like I said on the New Year one, that I've got to do it, not just for them, but for the shows and more importantly, the fans as well. And, we've got some great top of the bills coming up.
Round 6 is your round again, Woody. You've been speaking pretty much non-stop the last half hour. You've been good value. John and myself just sitting here, and it's that purse bid. There's only one, isn't there, to talk about? Yeah.
And what I want to say on this purse bid, that when I first seen it, I sat back and thought, wow, and apparently it's the highest purse bid ever. And I thought, well, he was going to give 15 million step aside, which has been admitted now from both parties. So that wasn't made up. But the money was from Saudi then. So it's not real money. Whereas this show allegedly is going to happen in England. So it's real money. And I've started thinking, well, the pay-per-view, they're talking 1 million buys. BT doesn't sell like Sky. So, they're not going to get those figures. Are they going to put the price up? If they put the price up, will the numbers still come up? And I was starting to think it was a gamble. And I've just read something only this morning where they're going to go in America, and Bob Adam thinks he's going to get 500,000 buys in America, which you wouldn't have fought for 2 bricks. But when I read that, I thought, yeah, they may be sensing those figures and they'll get it over the line. But before I thought about the American TV money, I thought, wow, they could be hitting a big bath here for this. And just a quick story is Dillian Whyte once fought on one of my shows in Hull on a ticket deal, and now he's in $8 million. It's fantastic, isn't it? I think he got 500 quid.
Dillian Whyte, he got his ambition after fighting for you in Hull. What it was, you promised him a night out in the Tower nightclub afterwards, but that's another story, I guess. But you know what? I think we were talking about this last week, Steve, and me and you both said last week, I don't know, it might have been you who said it, or one of us said it, and we both worked out around that £30 million, which is $41 million, just over £30 million at the current climate, would win the bids. Now, I think it can level up and make money. Because say, okay, I know you're sceptical. Frank thinks 1 million buys. Say if it did. 1 million buys at 30 quid, that's near enough 30 million. Take off your VAT, gives you 23, 24 million, I guess. So even that, with your overseas TV sales, what comes in from America, the box office, I still think itself, 40, wherever they go, Wembley is, I saw someone on Facebook today saying they'd heard Wembley or Cardiff. It's got to be one of those two. You could sell 40,000 tickets. That's a big 50,000. That's a big box office. You think with programs and all that sort of thing, merch, I think they can make money with this and make it a success. Because I tell you what, if Dillian plays ball like we hope he will at the press conference and all that, that press conference next week will really get everyone talking about it, because they're too hot.
That's what I was going to say.
It's going to be brilliant. I think it does well, this fight, and I think it makes money. The only thing I disagree with on what I've heard so far is Bob Arum saying 500,000 buys in America. No one knows Dillian Whyte in America. They might know him in Hull. They don't know him in America. And 500,000 buys in America, which I'm guessing the fight's going to be on British time, that makes it 5, 6 o'clock at night in America. Can't see that.
Nah, I don't think that'll happen. I was going to say exactly the same as you said about Dillian. If Dillian plays ball and is the Dillian Whyte that we've got to know over the last few years, this will take off. Fury and Whyte going at each other at a press conference. For people who only buy boxing 2-3 times a year to watch Joshua, and they're going to lap that up, aren't they? If Fury and Whyte are nearly fighting at a press conference, I think it'll be big. I agree. I think it's a 50,000 fight, no problem. And it could be one of them, depending on what happens next week and in the build-up, that really takes off. But I've not seen Whyte mention the fight yet. I've not seen anyone from... I know he's not got a deal with Eddie Hearn. I think it's on a handshake, isn't it? But I've not seen anyone from that side mention the fight. And I know Dillian's probably wanted a bit more of a purse, didn't he? I just hope Dillian's not going to decide, well, I've got the fight, I'm not doing anything to sell it. You know,
I can't say, but they might even say, look, the lawyers will be talking, they might even put him on a little deal of the upside of pay-per-view that we don't know. But I'm just, speculating there. But I can't say enough how important that press conference is next week in what this fight becomes in Britain. You can't emphasize it enough. It's absolutely enormous, this press conference next week, and how they both go at it and sell the fight. Absolutely massive.
Well, what we got to say is, forget Dillian Whyte for a little bit. Tyson Fury is absolutely brilliant, isn't he? And I can understand why Bob Arum thinks all the Yanks love him and will buy. But like you say, with Dillian Whyte, I'm not too sure. But that was a strange one, boys, wasn't it? Where Frank Warden said the other day that Ben Shalom had been on the phone to their George saying he represented Dillian Whyte for Sky, but they didn't put a bid in. So it's all a little bit strange what's going on. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think Tyson's the big draw on this one, even though, like John's saying, Dillian Whyte could cause a bit of fun and games, which will help it sell more. But, it's a chance of making money, whereas 2 or 3 days ago, I was looking at it and thinking, wow, that's a big gamble. Yeah.
That third fight with Wilder's put Fury on a different level, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's become I know people knew him and people thought he was a character and they'd followed his story getting back fit. But the way he got off, the way it always is in boxing, he got more credit for getting dropped and getting up off the floor in the 2 fights than he did battering him in the second one. And the manner of that third fight's just put Fury over the top now. He's a different level.
You know, it's made just a couple of things on what you're saying before we wrap up, fellas, and we'll get you your final thoughts. Fair enough if Ben's representing Tyson, but same as what Frank said. It was my first thought before he went into the next sentence in his interview, just why would you ring up and make a deal 40 minutes before the purse bid? You know, George Warren, Frank Warren, they're not the hardest people to get hold of by a phone. I mean, you ring Frank Warren, he rings anyone back within minutes, that surprised me. And you know what? I'm wondering, now we're getting back to some normality that we are. Can you imagine if it's not going to happen this summer, if Tyson was still going in 12 months and still on a crest of a wave, if Tyson went for a defense in Las Vegas in the summer of 2023, you could get something like Ricky Hatton did when he fought Floyd Mayweather when people went there en masse. You really could, I think. You thought that would never happen again. Tyson's got so big now, he could perhaps do that and take if travel was normal and no forms and barriers and vaccine passports, he could do that, I think, now.
Yeah. Anyway, while we're just wrapping it up then, has Dillian Whyte got a chance of winning this fight or not?
No. As long as Tyson trains right and that, no.
No, like Eubank Williams, it could end up being an entertaining one-sided fight because Dillian will go swing. Dillian's not going to go in his shell.
Yeah.
He's going to go swinging. And I think it'll be exciting for as long as it lasts.
I'm with you, John. I think there's only one winner unless he takes his eye off the ball. Look, you've got to give him a puncher's chance. But I would, there's certain fights in heavyweight boxing I've like written off straight away. Plenty I've got wrong, but this reminds me almost of, I remember when David Hay fought Audley Harrison and people were trying to sell Audley. And I said to Steve Bunce and Mick Costello, who go back a long way with Audley, and they were thinking, maybe, that he might give it a bit of a go here. And I just couldn't have it. And he'll give it a go and just get done quick. And I can see that here. Any final thoughts, fellas?
No, I think we covered everything there this week.
Who wins the fight before you go, Steve? Woody hasn't given us his verdict.
Yeah, listen, I'm the same as you guys, but I would say, obviously, he could just win it on the jab, Tyson, dancing around, but I don't think that'll happen. And I think you've got to give a little puncher's chance to Dillian Whyte, where he could kind of tuck his head in between his hands, walk forward and throw a lucky one. But, the odds are that he probably won't get away with that and land one. And, what we've got to say with Tyson is he does get up, doesn't he? If he does go over. So, no, I'll go 3-0 with you all there, boys. He's got to be a fury to win. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. I know you've got to get off. John, thanks very much for rushing home from work. So you recorded early tonight. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you all next week when hopefully Jamie Moore turns up. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.